everyone, and welcome to the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Care Network. I'm Dean, the host of the N.A.R.C.N Network and channel, and also the host of the Unmasking the Narcissist channel. Today I'm going to be presenting to you episode 149 on the N.A.R.C.N Network, and the title of episode 149 is the Narcissistic Pandemic. So, what we're going to be talking about in this particular episode is the fact that I believe, after having studied narcissism now for about the past 3 years very in-depthly, that we are experiencing a narcissistic pandemic. We see it everywhere. We see it in social media. We see it on television. We see it in day-to-day life. We see ourselves surrounded by people, whether it be people we know, whether it be bosses, whether it be other individuals we interact with, when we're out some places, just in general life. It seems to me that we are literally surrounded with individuals who are displaying some degree or level of narcissistic disorder. We see it on a day-to-day basis, and I see it on a day-to-day basis in extremely high levels, even with individuals around me that I know. To me, it seems to have become or gotten progressively worse as time has gone on, and I think that at the moment, the level of narcissism we see in the world is at almost a plague level, literally. And when I say this, I have reasons to back this up. I've had experiences with people that I know. I've had experiences with narcissists that I've dealt with. I have been studying narcissists, like I've said, now intensely for about the last 3 years. But I have studied psychology in the past, in my younger years, in my 20s, quite extensively. I continue to be interested in psychology most of my life. And with my recent narcissistic abuse events with a few individuals I've dealt with, I started restudying narcissism and restudying psychology. And restudying psychology quite extensively as well here too. And to me, we see narcissism everywhere in life. We see it on the television. We definitely see it out of our elected officials. We see it on governmental levels. It's everywhere. And what amazes me is the level that individuals will go to actually just, present narcissistic behavior with absolutely what seems to be no concern to anyone around them as to what they're particularly doing. It's that inherent, complete disconcern with everybody that bothers me on levels I can't even begin to describe. People have said to me, what is it about this is part of the behavior of human nature? It is part of the behavior of human nature, but unfortunately it seems like human nature lately is just out of control. It seems like human nature is out of control, and I'm not even talking about generalized people. I can give you some examples of this. We're seeing a lot of this in our government currently, like this. I am a Canadian citizen. I have been all my life. I am seeing governmental narcissism on mass levels here, and narcissism out of other individuals. I'll give you a couple of examples here, just of things that have bothered me lately. I was watching a video recently where the Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla was being interviewed during a press conference, and somebody asked Albert Bourla, were you aware that your vaccines were conceivably unsafe to the public as a whole, beyond just the general concerns for the safety of individuals who take them? They basically asked him, were you aware that they could indeed be causing trauma or be causing high-level medical events with individuals? And Mr. Bourla stepped up and walked. He stepped up and walked out of that conference without answering the question that the individual posed to him. Now, that action that he did there, being inquired about a very serious matter, which is people who are now suffering from vaccine injuries due to the factor that the vaccines are indeed not as safe as Pfizer initially said they would be, and we are seeing these vaccine injuries occurring all over the world in much larger levels than they should be happening. The simple factor that Mr. Borla got up out of this meeting and left without saying a word. This is the actions of a narcissist who thinks that they don't have any responsibility to be held accountable for the things that they are doing. Because someone who felt that they needed to have a response or give a response for this would have given some type of response for this. When a person like Albert Bourla stands up at a meeting like this and walks out of it without giving any response, he thinks he's above any reproach of anyone asking him this question. This was a medical person apparently asking him this question in this conference. And he got up and left without giving any response to this at all. That is the act of a high-level narcissist, right there. That is a great example of the act of a high-level narcissist. He felt he was above responding anything in this instance. Now, there are people out there who will probably say to me, no, that's probably not what he was doing. He just didn't want to respond because he didn't want to, he either didn't know what to respond or didn't want to assume automatic responsibility, yada, yada, yada. This is the CEO of Pfizer. He is responsible for what goes on with his products that he puts out there, and responsible for what happens with individuals who are suddenly injured by his products. He has a need to answer those questions or to provide some answer at that moment, and he didn't. He got up and left. That is the act of a high-level narcissist. In another instance here, I'm going to use the instance of Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Thomas Carrier during the Emergency Act inquiry that's going on currently here. Mr. Carrier was asked by the Commission whether or not he was made aware that the Emergencies Act would be imposed on the 14th of February, which was basically Valentine's Day, I believe, when this was imposed. He basically swore an oath on the stand, and he said his response, Mr. Carrier's response was, he was never informed that the Emergencies Act was going to be imposed on that date in February. He was not consulted about this. He attested to this on the stand, under oath. Now, Mr. Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, also stated on the stand, under oath, and in other instances here, that he indeed talked to Commissioner Carrier, and Commissioner Carrier was aware completely that the Emergencies Act was going to be invoked on that date. Mr. Carrier says he was never informed of this at any point, or made aware that this act was going to be invoked on that date. So somebody here is lying. Either it's Mr. Carrier, the OPP commissioner, or it's our minister, our Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, who is lying. Now, who it is that's particularly lying here, I'm not really sure. But with the experiences we've had of our government over the past little while, and the fact that Mr. Trudeau is displaying a history here of repeated lying and repeated avoidance of questioning and repeated behavioral things that are indicating that Mr. Trudeau himself also may be a high-level narcissist, I would tend to think that Mr. Carrier is actually telling the truth, and that it's actually Prime Minister Trudeau here who is actually lying. This is another example of high-level lying in government going on, and the wool being pulled over the public's eyes as to what the truth really is. This is the type of high-level pandemic narcissism that I'm talking about. This is why I say we are undergoing a narcissistic pandemic here. Instances like this in our government, and instances like this in our healthcare, where people are lying or avoiding answering questions. These are all the actions of narcissists who believe that they are beyond reproach. And I know enough about narcissism and have studied enough about narcissism and psychology over the past 35 years of my life to identify what's going on with this and what's going on with these individuals. And the level of disconcern for people, or disconcern for lying to people outright, is appalling to me. It's absolutely appalling to me. And this is why I think that we exist in the confines of a narcissistic pandemic at this moment. It's everywhere. It's in people that we know. It's in people who, on an everyday basis, don't treat us properly, don't deal with us properly. It's in our government. It's in our medical system. It's everywhere. There is a narcissistic pandemic going on of a massive level. And I think that this is something that really, really needs to be addressed. And I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, because I'm just a lonely guy here with a little YouTube channel talking about narcissism and getting you guys to try to understand narcissistic disorder and narcissistic abuse. I can't myself do very much about this. But I can tell you that the level of narcissism going on in the world is awful. It's absolutely awful. I see this as being just an awful, awful state of being for this modern world to be in at the moment. And this is just something I wanted to basically talk to you guys about here, was this narcissistic pandemic that I feel that we are currently under in this world. So this has been episode 149. I'm going to be coming up on the N.A.R.C.N networks with some other videos on the N.A.R.C.N channel and also on the Unmasking the Narcissist channel. I hope you guys have a great day today, and stay tuned for some other content coming up on the N.A.R.C.N network. I'll see you guys really soon.